in choosing subjects for a 10-minute drawing exercise, something that perhaps is suitable for a daily activity, remember we're not necessarily trying to draw things that in themselves are an interesting subject. We're trying to find things that will give us practice at certain skill developments, both skill of observing and of drawing, of, because we're drawing directly in ink and we can't erase anything, of proportions, but also judging what marks to put where to create the effect that we see in our reference. And because we're seeking to do this under 10 minutes, there's also always a little bit of time pressure, which can help us just to keep moving and not to get too precious or bogged down in what we're doing. So I thought this lower half of a tower in a building in New South Wales, a country town in New South Wales, was a nice little subject, just with its perspective angles, the pattern of perspective angles, of increasing in angle as they move above eye level, and also proportions, was a nice little 10-minute piece. The pity was that the upper half of the tower is more interesting in terms of architecture, but I thought, well, there's no way that can be done in 10 minutes, and maybe that could be another subject for another exercise. But remember, these are exercises. We're not trying to create artworks at the end. And this gives us a freedom to take a risk with our line drawing, with our mark making. And you'll notice I started with this long corner line. Now I started with that because, well, in all honesty, if it turned out to be a horrible wobbly thing, I could do it again. I could start again without any commitment to anything else. So sometimes the best line choice are the ones that are most risky for the first line, are the ones that are most risky, that we don't want to have something that's had a lot of commitment in drawing it before we commit to that line. So that chose my starting point. And then the next place I chose was the eye level. Now this is a great subject in that eye level, there is actually a horizontal line on the building at eye level. And when I took this photo, the ground was sloping down as it moved away from this corner. So I was actually standing on slightly lower ground. But if we look at that cream concrete rendering at the base, the top of that is pretty much eye level, because see, it's pretty much a straight line across the whole scene. Not just on the corner of the tower that we're drawing with, but the other side of that tower as well. We get a nice straight line. So above that, every horizontal line will increase in angle, and that's going to be a particular focus in this drawing. The other focus will be to draw the detail as much as we can without overdrawing it, without making it too large for the scale. Sometimes when we draw the sort of detail we have here at the sort of size that I'm drawing it, and I'm drawing this on a A5 piece of paper, half copy paper height of the paper, that we can end up making the detail a little bit larger than the space that the detail fits into. And so it's really good to practice not doing that. And I just am working out exactly where the edge of the building is. And so every horizontal line that I'm doing up this wall, I'm trying to focus on just tipping the angle slightly higher. Now, if the lines are close together, then the angle difference won't be that great. But when I move a bit higher up, then I will have to bump that angle up a little bit more. And of course, constantly I'm glancing back and forth from the reference to my drawing, the reference to my drawing. I'm looking at the difference between the angles I have already drawn and the angles I haven't yet drawn in the reference, and then focusing on my drawing. I'm drawing this with a 0.1 millimeter Unipin fine liner. And notice how far back I'm holding this. I want nice, clean, light lines. With this, I am trying to draw it as cleanly as I can. So, given the time constraints and the fact that it's freehand. So that was another focus I had, not to put unnecessary lines down. So perhaps have a little more restraint with my mark making than I would normally need in what I normally draw and how I normally draw it. So these straight lines, especially the vertical ones, trying to get nice, clean movements down. And ideally we do these with our whole arm. Now, I'm not going overboard with hatching here, but I just put a little bit of hatching in a few spots just to punch in a sense of 3 dimensions, that these windows and doors do go backwards into walls that have thickness. But as you'll see at the end, I actually did even less of that than I thought because my time was up, and I am going to keep these to pretty much 10 minutes. But you are watching this in real time. Please hit that like button if you're finding this series helpful, if you'd like to encourage me to make more of them. Anyone who you know who draws, who you think might benefit or might enjoy doing a daily drawing exercise where all the choices made for them so they can just sit down and start that 10 minutes of practice straight away, why not share this video with them? And they are all on a playlist. This is only the second one, but I'll do at least 10 to make it worthwhile going to the playlist, maybe even more if they prove popular enough. So the other challenge with this is, besides just getting nice straight vertical lines and getting the sense of depth, is to get 3 dimensions coming outwards. So we get 3 dimensions when we create wall thickness, where the glass is set back from the wall, the plane of the wall. But also there are details on this that actually come away from the wall. And I need to do it, put enough marks, enough lines on the paper to indicate this depth in a credible way. Now, I am drawing this fairly small, and even though I'm using a 0.1 millimeter pen, the line is still quite thick for the level of detail that's in the reference for the size of the photo and of my drawing. So I still have to make some choices to simplify a little bit. What I want to create is the effect of all of this being 3-dimensional, whether it's going into the wall or coming outwards, stuck onto the wall. I want to create the feel that it's got depth, rather than precisely having the number of vertical lines I need to be accurate to the photo. So that's another consideration, not overdoing the accuracy. So now I move on to these 2 side windows, and I line them up with what I've already drawn. So firstly, I look at the reference to see where is this top line going to be, the top horizontal line. I'm sort of treating them sort of as a unit, these 2 windows, because they're so close together. But I didn't do a horizontal line because I wasn't sure where to start it or where to finish it. So for now, I just did a little dot, and then I did something similar for the bottom of it. Then I did a vertical line, and then I began to move across with the angles. And of course, the angle of the top needs to be more than the angle at the bottom. And I'm realizing at this point that my bottom angle is maybe even slightly more than parallel. It's even slightly more angled the other way. So I fiddle around with that later. But again, it's a little reminder for me that I need to look twice before I draw. It's so easy to presume that we know what we're doing and just trying to create. I'm very aware of the time now, and while I don't have much more I'm planning to do, I do want to do a little bit more of the cornicing that comes out. I basically want to go to the first, if you like, the first bit of horizontal detailing for the upper story. And I had actually thought I'd do a little bit of the effect of the brickwork, but I didn't have a chance to do that in this. Instead, I finished up using that time just to do a little bit of context on each side of this tower. But I am enjoying just sitting down and just just starting quickly and not needing a great time commitment in doing this. G'day, I'm Stephen Travers. Daily exercise, it's such a way to fast track our learning. We learn far more, far quicker, far more effectively by doing smaller bursts of drawing, but where we are intense in our paying attention and the purposefulness of what we do and how we do it, and really looking at what we've done afterwards for a couple of minutes and working out, well, what's worked well, what do I need to pay more attention to next time? And of course, I can redraw this in my next 10-minute drawing exercise, and that can be a good way to really nail those observations. So just adding that little bit of context on each side. Please check out my playlist if you haven't. I have, I don't know, it must be close to 1,400 videos now. So it may be helpful to navigate all that content and find the ones that are going to be most helpful for you if you're able to look at what those playlists are and use those. And now just doing this little corner bit, a reminder you are watching this in real time, and you could always increase the speed to double time and watch it in 5 or 6 minutes and probably not lose a great deal of what's happening. So just wanting to position this column and realizing I really should have done the column first. The order in which we draw things can make such a difference to being able to position things easily and cleanly and accurately. And of course, you'll find this reference on my channel community page if you'd like to have a go, and there's a link in the description. But whatever you draw, however you draw it, make sure you have fun. I'll see you next time. Bye.